Here is the deal society offers you, and I want you to actually hear it. Maybe for the first time, without the cultural noise that normally drowns it out. You take the best 40 years of your life, your energy, your health, your curiosity, the decades when your body works and your mind is sharpened, the world feels genuinely open. And you trade them. You trade them for a cubicle, a commute, a pension contribution, and a calendar that belongs almost entirely to someone else. You do this for 4 decades. You defer the trip, the project, the life you actually want, because there isn't time, and there isn't money, and there's a presentation due Thursday. And then at 65, when your knees hurt and your parents are gone and you have maybe 15 good summers left if the health holds, you get to go to Italy. That is the deal. That is the complete transaction. 40 years of your finite life in exchange for a retirement that arrives just in time for you to be too tired to fully use it. And we don't just accept this deal. We celebrate it. We call it responsible. We call it planning ahead. We look at people who question it with mild suspicion, like they missed something obvious that the rest of us figured out. I didn't figure it out. I just eventually got angry enough to do the math. Before we go any further, I want to be precise about what the scam actually is. Because I'm not here to tell you not to save money. Saving money is good. I'm not here to tell you not to invest. Investing is how ordinary people build real wealth, and I've said that in every video on this channel. The scam is not the saving. The scam is not the investing. The scam is the timeline. Somebody decided, and then the entire financial industry, the government, and 40 years of cultural momentum agreed that the correct time to access the life you've been funding is at 65. That the responsible move is to defer your existence, to put your actual desires into an account labeled later, and trust that later will arrive in good condition, fully intact, ready to be enjoyed. Later is not guaranteed. The version of you at 65 is not guaranteed. And the system that benefits most from you waiting patiently for 4 decades is not you. That's what we're unpacking today. Let's start with the biological reality that the retirement industry would prefer you not think about too carefully. You are not the same person at 65 that you are at 35. Not in the ways that matter most for the things people claim they're saving retirement for. The travel, the adventure, the physical experiences, the stamina required to actually enjoy the life you've been picturing on a vision board for 30 years. These things are not age-neutral. They require a body that cooperates, and bodies with impressive reliability cooperate less as the decades accumulate. The statistics are not comforting. By the time the average American reaches retirement age, a significant percentage are managing at least one chronic health condition. Mobility limitations, energy levels that make a 14-hour international flight a genuine ordeal rather than an inconvenience. Dietary restrictions that make the Italian food tour complicated. Joint pain that makes the hiking trip theoretical. You are not saving for yourself. You are saving for a future stranger who shares your name and your memories, but operates in a fundamentally different physical reality. Meanwhile, you at 38 can hike the mountain. You at 42 can eat the food, take the flight, stay up late in a city that's new to you, and recover in 2 days instead of 2 weeks. The experiences you are deferring are experiences your current body is equipped for. The body you're planning to use them with may not be. This is not pessimism. This is the actuarial table with the filter off. The retirement fantasy is built on the assumption that you will arrive at 65 in roughly the same condition you left your 40s, just with more money and more time. That assumption does not have strong statistical support. And the financial industry, which profits enormously from your patience, has very little incentive to point that out. Now let's follow the money. Because the 65 narrative didn't emerge from a neutral study of human flourishing. It emerged from a system with very specific financial interests in keeping your capital inside it for as long as possible. Here's what the traditional retirement structure actually looks like from the other side of the table. You contribute to a 401k for 40 years. During those 40 years, the fund managers, administrators, and financial institutions attached to that account collect fees. Small percentages annually on a growing balance. Year after year. Compounding, ironically, in the same direction as your investment, except the fees compound for them while the balance compounds for you. The longer your money stays in the system, the more fees get extracted. A 30-year-old who maxes their 401k and retires at 65 has provided 35 years of fee-generating capital to the financial industry. The same person who finds a way to retire at 50 has provided 20 years. That 15-year difference across millions of account holders is worth an enormous amount of money to the people administering those accounts. And then there's the penalty. If you want to access your own money, the money you earned, the money you contributed, the money that exists because you worked, before the age of 59 and a half, the IRS charges you a 10% early withdrawal penalty on top of ordinary income tax. Your own money, early. The message built into the architecture of the system is not subtle. Stay in. Wait. Do not touch this until we say so. And if you leave early, you pay for the inconvenience of wanting your own life back ahead of schedule. That is not a retirement savings vehicle designed around your interests. That is a capital retention mechanism dressed up in the language of responsible adulting. The golden handcuffs are real, they are legal, and most people put them on voluntarily because nobody explained what they were actually agreeing to. Let me show you the exit door that the financial industry doesn't put on the brochure. The traditional retirement math works like this. Save 10% of your income for 40 years, let it compound. Retire at 65 with enough to live modestly. That's the plan. That's the whole plan. And it works, technically, if you're comfortable with the timeline and trust that 65 will look the way you're picturing it today. But there's a different version of the math, one that flips the entire sequence. It's called Coast Fire, and the core idea is deceptively simple. Instead of saving a little for a long time, you save aggressively early. You front-load the compound interest engine by living significantly below your means in your 20s and 30s and throwing every available dollar into low-cost index funds. You let the math do what math does when you give it enough time and enough starting capital. Here's what that actually looks like in practice. If you invest roughly $200,000 by the age of 35, at the market's historical average return of 7% after inflation, that money will grow to approximately $1.5 million by the time you're 65. Without you adding a single additional dollar. The engine is running. The destination is set. The math is in charge now, which means at 35 or 40, or wherever you hit that number, you can stop. Not stop working necessarily, but stop the frantic, high-stress, maximize every dollar phase of wealth accumulation. You can take the lower-paying job you actually find meaningful. You can work 3 days a week. You can start the thing you've been putting off. You only need to cover your current living expenses, because the retirement is already funded, sitting in an account, compounding quietly without your help. You are not retiring early in the traditional sense. You are buying back your 40s and 50s. You are purchasing the right to be present in the middle of your life instead of deferring it to the end. The aggressive early phase is finite and hard. What it buys is the rest of your life on different terms. That trade is available to more people than realize it. It just requires someone to show you the math before you've already signed 40 years of your calendar away. Now let's talk about why people who have done the math, people who intellectually understand everything we just covered, still don't leave. It's not laziness. It's not lack of imagination. It's one thing, specifically, and it's been engineered to be as effective as possible. Health insurance. In almost every other developed country on Earth, this conversation doesn't exist in the same way. Healthcare is decoupled from employment. You leave a job, you still have access to medical care. The decision to stay or go is based on the work itself, the compensation, the quality of your life. In the United States, your health coverage is typically tied to your employer, which means the cubicle is not just where you earn money. It is where you maintain access to the system that stands between you and financial ruin if something goes wrong with your body. And something going wrong with your body is not a hypothetical. It is a statistical certainty over a long enough timeline. So people stay. People with enough invested to downshift significantly stay at jobs that are grinding them down because leaving means navigating the individual insurance market, paying premiums that can run $1,000 a month or more for a family, and accepting a level of coverage uncertainty that feels genuinely dangerous. The job stopped being about the money a while ago. Now, it's about the benefits package. The cubicle became a hospital waiting room, a place you sit in, trading hours of your life and portions of your mental health, hoping you never actually need the thing you're there to access. This is not an accident. A population that needs employer-sponsored benefits to feel medically secure is a population that is significantly easier to retain at below-market compensation, in below-satisfying conditions, for longer than they would otherwise stay. The system that keeps you at the desk and the system that makes leaving feel medically risky are not separate systems. They reinforce each other with remarkable efficiency. Financial independence without a healthcare solution is incomplete. That's a real planning problem worth solving seriously. But the first step is recognizing the hostage situation for what it is, and refusing to let it be the only reason you stay somewhere that is slowly costing you more than it pays. Everything we've covered so far has been about math and systems and structural incentives. This last one is different. This one is just reality, stated as plainly as I know how to state it. You are making a trade. And like all trades, both sides of it deserve honest examination. You are giving up 40 known years, real years, years you are currently living or approaching or watching pass, years when your energy is available, your relationships are intact, your body is functional, and the world is open to you in ways it may not be later. These years are not theoretical. They are happening right now while you wait. In exchange, you are receiving a claim on an unknown number of future years, starting at 65, ending whenever your health or your luck runs out, when that may or may not resemble the retirement you've been picturing. The graveyard is full of people who were excellent savers, people who did everything right by the conventional definition, maxed the 401k, stayed the course, deferred the trip and the project and the sabbatical and the year abroad, because the plan required patience and they were patient. And then something happened. A diagnosis at 58, a heart attack at 62, a slow cognitive decline that started at 67 and made the Italy trip irrelevant. They saved everything. They spent almost nothing. And then they were gone. I'm not telling you this to be dark. I'm telling you because the financial conversation almost never includes the mortality variable. And the mortality variable is the most important one on the spreadsheet. The risk of running out of money in retirement is real and worth planning for. But the risk of running out of life before you get to use the money is equally real, statistically significant, and almost entirely absent from the way we talk about saving. Deferring your joy is a risk, a very large, very underacknowledged risk. You are betting 40 known, guaranteed years against 15 uncertain ones, and the culture calls that responsible planning. I call it the most consequential gamble most people ever make. And most people make it without realizing they made a choice at all. So let's talk about what you actually do with all of this. Because I didn't spend 20 minutes dismantling the conventional retirement timeline just to leave you staring at a calendar feeling vaguely hopeless. There's a practical alternative. It's not complicated. It just requires thinking about retirement differently. Not as a destination at the end of a long road, but as something you distribute across the road itself. The mini-retirement. The concept is straightforward. Instead of deferring all of your rest, all of your exploration, all of your deliberately chosen time, and stacking it into a single block at the end of your working life, you take it in intervals. A 6-month sabbatical at 38, a year off at 45, a deliberate slow period at 52 where you work part-time and actually live in the place you've been wanting to live. You use your health while you have it. You spend time with your kids while they're still kids. You take the trip while your body treats it like an adventure instead of an ordeal. The first objection is always money. I can't afford to take a year off, and I understand why it feels that way. But let's look at what a mid-career sabbatical actually costs when you approach it with some preparation. If you have no bad debt, no credit card balances, no car payment eating your cash flow, and a solid emergency fund, your actual monthly expenses are probably significantly lower than your income has led you to believe. You are not replacing a salary during a sabbatical. You are covering your genuine cost of living, which for most people in a lower-pressure life without the commute And the work wardrobe and the stress spending that accompanies a demanding job is a smaller number than they expect. A year off mid-career, plan 12 to 18 months in advance, is within reach for more people than will ever attempt it. The barrier is not usually financial. The barrier is permission. The belief that the career will collapse, the resume will develop a scarlet letter, the world will move on without you in a way that can't be recovered from. It almost never works that way. The career survives. The world waits. And you come back having spent 12 months actually living, which turns out to be surprisingly good for your perspective, your creativity, and your ability to tolerate Monday mornings. You are not abandoning retirement savings. You are spreading the retirement years throughout your actual life, instead of hoarding them at the end. That is a retirement strategy. It just doesn't generate fees for anyone, which is probably why nobody in the financial industry is selling it. There is one final piece to this, and it might be the most important thing I say in this entire video. The financial industry does not want you to define enough. Ever. 20 years ago, $1 million was the retirement number, the finish line. That was the cultural shorthand for financial security. You hit $1 million, you were done. Then the goalpost moved. Suddenly, $1 million wasn't enough. Inflation was a concern. You needed $2 million to be safe. Then 3. Now, there are calculators and articles and very confident people on financial media suggesting that $5 million is the new baseline for a comfortable retirement. And if you're not there yet, you should keep running. Notice what never happens in that conversation. The number never gets smaller. The finish line never gets closer. The message is always the same. You are not quite there yet. Keep contributing. Keep the money in the system. Keep generating the fees that the system runs on. The most powerful financial decision you can make is to define your own number, not the industry's number. Yours. What does your actual life cost? What does the version of your life that feels full and sufficient and genuinely yours cost to maintain? Calculate that number, build toward it, and when you hit it, or when the Coast Fire math tells you it's already funded and compounding without you, stop. Step off the treadmill, not because you're lazy, not because you've given up, because you have enough. And enough, actually reached and honestly recognized, is a form of wealth that no portfolio balance can fully capture. The industry wants you running forever because a running client is a fee-generating client. The radical act is stopping when you said you would stop, at the number you decided actually matters, regardless of what the market is doing or what the next article tells you that you need. You get to decide when enough is enough. That decision belongs to you. It always did. Here's the summary, as plainly as I can say it. The retirement timeline you were handed is not a law of nature. It is a financial and cultural construct that serves the institutions maintaining it far more reliably than it serves the people living inside it. Saving is good. Investing is good. Building a financial foundation that gives you options is one of the most important things you can do. But trading 40 guaranteed years for 15 uncertain ones, deferring your health and your relationships and your curiosity until a finish line that may or may not arrive in the condition you're picturing. That is not responsible planning. That is the riskiest bet most people ever make, dressed up in the language of prudence. Stop letting a system designed by other people for other people's benefit dictate the timeline of your one life. If this video made you rethink the 40-year plan, even slightly, even uncomfortably, hit the like button before you go. It costs you nothing, and it tells the algorithm this content is worth showing to the people who are currently sleepwalking through a deal they never consciously agreed to. There are a lot of them. They need to see the math. If you're not subscribed yet, this is what the channel does every video. No hype, no product placements, no version of financial advice designed to keep you dependent on the people selling it. Just the honest conversation that most of the industry would rather not have. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next one.